It's a Friday evening. You are standing in a checkout line. The person in front of you is buying groceries. Normal groceries. The kind of purchase that should be unremarkable. They tap a card. The card does something. They tap it again. The machine makes a sound that means no. They try a different card. The line is watching now without appearing to watch. The second card works. They collect their bags without making eye contact with anyone and walk out into the parking lot, and the transaction is complete. And nobody in that line will think about it again by the time they reach their car. Except the person who paid. They will think about it. They thought about it before they came to the store. They thought about which card had room. They performed a mental accounting of available credit across 3 accounts while deciding whether they could afford milk. That calculation is not a personal failure. It is the product of a system that was specifically and deliberately designed to make spending feel consequence-free at the moment of spending and very consequential at the moment of reckoning. The reckoning has its own billing cycle. The billing cycle is patient. It will wait. This is what your life actually looks like on both sides of this decision. Not the rewards program brochure, not the financial influencer warning. What it feels like, year by year, to live inside each relationship with money. Where it takes you. What it costs you in ways that never appear on any statement. And why the answer, as always, is more complicated than either side admits. The cash life. Year 1. The friction is the feature. You made a decision, or the decision was made for you, by a history that did not include credit access, and you are operating entirely in cash. Debit, physical currency. Money you already have, rather than money you are borrowing against the future version of yourself who will have to deal with it. The first thing you notice is the friction. Buying things with cash that you already own requires you to feel the subtraction in a way that a card, any card, is specifically engineered to prevent you from feeling. The tap is frictionless by design. The cash is not frictionless by design. You count it out. You watch the number in the account go down. You feel the $200 grocery run as $200 leaving, rather than a tap that your future self will process during a billing cycle that feels theoretical at the point of purchase. Behavioral economists have studied this for decades. The pain of paying is real and measurable, and cash maximizes it and cards minimize it, and the industry understood this before the research confirmed it. The hidden strength in year 1 is the budget that builds itself. Not because you are more disciplined than the credit card person, because the constraint is structural. You cannot spend what you do not have. The ceiling exists whether you think about it or not. The cost is the moments. The concert that sold out before your account cleared. The flight that was available Wednesday and gone by Friday when the paycheck landed. Cash living has a specific texture of mistiming that nobody in the cash advocacy space discusses honestly. The world moves faster than a fixed account balance sometimes. That gap is real, and it has a cost. The credit card life. Year 1. The float and the feeling. You were approved. The letter came or the screen confirmed and there was a number, and the number felt like a resource even though it was not a resource. It was a liability with a grace period. The distinction did not land with full weight at the time. The first months are genuinely good. There is a cashback percentage that feels like the system rewarding your participation. There are points accumulating towards something aspirational. The card works everywhere the cash sometimes doesn't. The subscription services, the online purchases, the rental car that required a credit card so specifically the cash was not an accepted alternative. There is a real and legitimate convenience layer to credit card living that the cash advocates acknowledge too rarely. The float is real, the rewards are real. The problem in year 1 is not visible yet because the balance is manageable and the minimum payment is affordable and the interest has not had time to do what interest does when given enough time, and a human psychology that finds minimum payments psychologically satisfying in a way that is completely disconnected from their mathematical reality. The minimum payment is designed to feel like responsibility. It is designed to keep you in the system as long as possible at the highest sustainable cost the system can extract. You are not stupid for finding it satisfying. You are the product of very expensive behavioral research applied at industrial scale. The cash life. Year 2. The negotiating position. Something happened that surprised you. You began to have conversations that the credit card person is structurally prevented from having. The landlord who preferred cash. The contractor who offered a different number when payment was immediate and certain. The car repair that came in lower when the shop understood the payment was real and present rather than pending and procedural. Cash has a negotiating power that the financial system does not advertise because the financial system profits from intermediation. Every time money moves through a card network, a percentage is extracted by parties who contributed nothing to the transaction. The merchant knows this. When you remove those parties from the transaction, you are offering the merchant something real: certainty, immediacy, margin. They price that accordingly when the relationship allows for it. You are not saving enormous amounts on every transaction. You are saving something on enough transactions that the habit compounds into a different relationship with the cost of things. You begin to understand that the price on the tag is the beginning of the negotiation, not the end of it. That understanding migrates into purchases where it matters much more than groceries. The credit card life. Year 2. The balance that stays. You paid it down once. You were proud of that. The balance went to zero, or close to zero, and the feeling was clean, and you told yourself that was the pattern going forward. Then something happened. It is always something. The car, the medical bill, the month where the income was irregular and the expenses were not. The balance came back. Not dramatically, incrementally, the way water fills a low place. By the end of year 2, the balance has a consistency to it. It moves up and down, but it does not go away. The minimum payment is being made. The minimum payment is keeping the account current and the credit score intact, and the interest accumulating at a rate that is listed in the agreement you signed and did not read in the font size it was printed in, because nobody reads it in the font size it is printed in. The interest rate is somewhere between 19 and 29% depending on the card and the year and your credit profile. You know the number abstractly. You have not calculated what it means in actual dollars over the actual life of the actual balance you are actually carrying. That calculation is available to you at any time. You have not done it. There is a psychological reason you have not done it. And the reason is that the number that calculation produces is large enough to make the rest of dinner uncomfortable. The cash life. Year 3. The emergency that wasn't. Something happened. Of course something happened. The transmission, the medical thing. The month the freelance income did not arrive on the timeline it was supposed to arrive on. You had been putting a specific amount somewhere every month, not because you had a sophisticated financial plan, but because the cash system had been generating a small surplus through friction and negotiation, and the structural impossibility of spending beyond your balance. The surplus was not glamorous. It was not large enough to feel secure in the way financial content promises security will feel when you have finally saved enough. But it was there. The emergency arrived, and the emergency was absorbed. Not without stress, not without difficult math, but without a balance that would outlast the emergency by 18 months at minimum payment. The emergency ended. The account recovered. The balance returned to something functional inside a quarter. The credit card person absorbed the same emergency differently. They absorbed it with available credit, which felt like a solution and was a solution in the immediate term, and became a structural problem in the medium term. Both people survived the emergency. They survived it inside different systems that will treat them differently for the next several years because of how the emergency was absorbed. The credit card life. Year 3. The minimum payment mathematics. You did the calculation. Something made you do it. A video, an article, a conversation that made the abstraction concrete enough to force the arithmetic. You took the current balance. You took the interest rate. You applied the minimum payment formula. The number of months the calculation returned was not a typo. You checked it twice. The total interest you would pay over the life of the balance at minimum payment was more than the original balance, more than the things you bought. You paid for the things. Then you would pay for the things again, in interest alone, for purchases that no longer exist in any useful form. The couch is depreciated. The vacation is a memory. The groceries were consumed years ago. The interest on those groceries is still compounding. This is the moment the system reveals its architecture to the person living inside it. Not through malice, through math. The math was always there. The minimum payment design ensured it would take approximately this long to become impossible to ignore. By this point, the balance has a life of its own. It exists independently of any future spending. It will be there whether you add to it or not. You have created a financial dependent that requires monthly support and returns nothing. The cash life. Year 5. The different vocabulary. 5 years of cash living has done something to the way you think about purchases that is difficult to describe to someone who has not experienced it. You have developed a different relationship with wanting. The friction of cash payment, applied consistently across 5 years and thousands of transactions, has recalibrated the internal threshold between wanting something and deciding to buy it. You do not want less. You evaluate differently. The question you ask before a purchase is no longer, can I afford the payment? The question is, what does this cost in actual money that I actually have? That question produces different answers than the payment question. The payment question makes almost everything affordable. The actual cost question makes fewer things worth it. This recalibration is not deprivation. People who develop it consistently describe not a sense of restriction, but a sense of clarity. A reduction in the ambient noise of consumer desire that the credit system is designed to amplify. You still buy things. You buy things with a decisiveness that the credit card person, managing multiple balances across multiple accounts and multiple billing cycles, has not experienced in years, because every purchase is a negotiation with a system rather than a decision about a thing. The credit card life. Year 5. The consolidation conversation. Someone offered you a balance transfer, 0% for 18 months. You took it. It was the rational choice given the interest rate differential. You transferred the balance. You felt the relief of a lower payment and a promotional rate, and a fresh start that was not quite a fresh start because the balance was still there, consolidated but not reduced, waiting patiently for the promotional period to expire. You spent the 18 months making payments that felt meaningful at the 0% rate. The promotional period ended. The rate reset. The balance was lower, but not gone. The cycle offered to repeat itself. Another transfer. Another promotional period. Another 18 months of the productive illusion of progress. The consolidation industry exists entirely to service this cycle. It does not exist to help you escape the cycle. It exists because the cycle has a specific leak point every 18 to 24 months where the participant considers exit and can be retained with a new structure that extends the relationship while appearing to improve it. You are not foolish for using it. The alternative was worse. You are, however, 5 years into a system that has retained you through 3 structural resets, and the balance, adjusted for everything, is not dramatically different from where it was in year 2. Year 10. 2 different balance sheets. A decade in. The divergence is not theoretical anymore. The cash person has something the financial world calls a clean balance sheet. No consumer liabilities. No monthly obligations to creditors for things that no longer exist. Every dollar they earn is available for forward deployment without a prior claim against it. They are not wealthy necessarily. They are unencumbered. Unencumbered is a financial condition that the credit system has successfully reframed as boring when it is actually the prerequisite for almost every meaningful financial move a person can make. The house purchase, the business capitalization, the investment that required quick action and a balance sheet that could absorb it. Every one of those moves is easier, cheaper, and more available to the unencumbered person than to the person managing a legacy of consumer debt. The credit card person has something too. They have a credit score that reflects years of payment history. They have rewards points in an account they check occasionally. They have a relationship with a financial system that has been extracting a percentage of their income for a decade with the reliable consistency of a business that knows exactly what it is doing. The balance sheet has a number on the liability side that has been there so long it feels permanent. It is not permanent. But removing it at this stage requires a sustained effort against a system that profits from its continuation. The system is patient. The system has been patient for 10 years. The system will remain patient for as long as necessary. What nobody tells you about either choice. The cash life was never about the cash. It was about a specific relationship with the present tense. A refusal to spend tomorrow's money today because tomorrow's money belongs to a future self who has not yet agreed to the transaction. That is not conservatism. That is a form of self-respect that the credit system has very successfully reframed as an inconvenience. The credit card life was never about the rewards. Nobody ever actually came out ahead on the points. The points are the fee the system pays to make extraction feel like participation. The credit life was about something real and worth acknowledging. The feeling of access, of not being excluded from the things that require a card, of moving through a purchasing world that was built around credit with the ease of someone who belongs in it, rather than the friction of someone operating outside its dominant logic. Both feelings are legitimate. Both have costs that were not disclosed at the point of enrollment. The cash person paid in missed timing and occasional exclusion, and the sustained low-level effort of operating outside a system that was not designed for them. The credit person paid in interest and anxiety, and the specific cognitive load of managing multiple obligations across multiple cycles, with the background awareness that the math, if examined too closely, would make the rest of dinner uncomfortable. Both people wanted the same thing underneath the mechanism they chose: safety, access, the feeling that the money, however it was held and however it moved, was working for them rather than for someone else. Because the goal was never to find the right card. The goal was never even to build the perfect budget. The goal was to